What's going on, everybody? Thanks for downloading the Voice of Bedlam podcast. Happy Cinco de Mayo from all of us over at the Voice of Bedlam family.
Cheers.
So just me and John tonight, but we will be having a special little interview with Sam Stocks, a pro football spot, breaking down a whole bunch of stuff about the undrafted rookie free agents and some of the drafted guys. But let's check in with John and see what's going on with him. How you doing, Devil John?
I'm doing all right. It's been a gloomy week, and I can't believe it's already Thursday, but Friday is tomorrow, so let's do it.
Having fun.
Yeah,
but I can tell you, well, actually, let's get into the daily breakdown. All right, the daily breakdown, just our shakedown with everything, all the headlines that are going on. Now, there's three of them that we're going to focus on today. Where do you want to go first? Do you want to go Johnny Manziel first?
Yeah, Johnny Manziel seems like he's got himself in quite the predicament.
Well, he had one of his court dates, just a brief thing, kind of sounds like a PFA or a restraining order. Yeah. He was ordered to have no contact with the alleged victim, his ex-girlfriend, for the incident that happened back in January at that hotel. Yeah. So he was also he's not allowed to possess any firearms while this whole thing's going on right now. See, now if he is convicted, he could get up to a year in prison and a $4,000 fine. Now that would be the maximum. Well, actually, it's Johnny Manziel. A lot of people don't like him, maybe, but I wouldn't see him going to jail for this still.
Yeah, he's gonna be in quite a predicament, that's for sure. And unfortunately, being released and then dropped by his agent and
you mean being released from the team?
Released from the team,
but when he
dropped by his agents and sponsors, there's not too much of what you were relying on as your paycheck. So now you have to rely on what you salvaged from college if you have a degree, but unfortunately your resume is it's not going to serve you very well, sir.
Now, he turned himself in, and this created some controversy as well. When he turned himself in, his mugshot got out, and he's kind of smirking in it. Now, he bailed himself right out. You know what I mean? So he just had to turn himself in, surrender himself to the court. But, he's smirking in the picture, and then he was making, little sarcastic tweets about it, saying, at least this time I was wearing a shirt. And I guess that's referencing him getting arrested back when he was at A&M for a disorderly conduct.
Texas A&M, and there was a few of those pictures that got out there, and because everybody's got cell phones and stuff with pretty decent cameras, so you can zoom in and get a good snapshot of Michael Phelps smoking a bong, and Johnny Manziel smoking,
doing whatever he is.
Yeah, he's doing the same thing.
But I want to talk about
the only thing I say is.
But now, so is he going to be a good boy, or is he going to try and contact this chick? Are we going to be talking about this 2 weeks later and being like, Josh Gordon hand-delivered a letter to her, and he's going to violate this? Like, is that what we're going to be talking about in 2 weeks?
Honestly, I think he's going to have to follow the rules there this time. There's no sweet talking out of the law system, because we already know most times it's blind.
Yes. Well, I guess that's enough on Manziel.
Definitely, because he's not going to be playing football anymore. So now he's
acting like he doesn't even want to play football.
Well, because nobody wants him to play football.
That's true.
So now you know what I say this. I bid you adieu, Johnny Manziel, because honestly, with a show talking about football, you're going to be a non-topic very quickly.
Yeah, as soon as the season starts rolling and all the drama's over, week one, and you're not going to be hearing about Johnny Manziel.
Unfortunately, he drug a franchise's name through the mud, and but I think Hugh Jackson's going to be doing some things over there in Cleveland to rebuild that dog pound.
Speaking of rebuilding, let's get to our next topic. week on The Daily Breakdown.
the Daily Breakdown, mother effers, is, which I guess I got to give you the plug on who it is. They're out of Connecticut, so a case of strain.
All right, but the Redskins also rebuilding, and they are giving a 5-year extension to the tight end Jordan Reed. Washington, 5-year extension worth up to $50 million. It'll kick in 2017, and it's $22 million guaranteed for a tight end. Redskins throwing around a lot of money. Whole division really throwing around a lot of money. What do you think about this move?
Honestly, for them to repeat that NFC East title, they're going to have a lot of players to work with. And honestly, they just spent so much money on Josh Norman. Now they spent so much money on Reed, who honestly is, basically Mr. Glass out there on the football field.
Yeah, he does have a lot of health concerns. He was on fire. He was on fire last year. I mean, we should bring up his stats. I mean, he's a bigger dude. He's 6'2", 237 pounds, but he only played in 20 of 32 games over his first 2 seasons.
Of his final 5 games, towards the end of the stretch there, he got 38 catches for 498 yards. And 6 TDs.
That's real nice.
So yeah, they're hoping that that's what they're gonna get. But also, let's not forget, he sat out a lot of times.
Well, yeah, he only played in 20 of 32 games, so he missed 12 out of the first 2 years.
Exactly. So that's 12 games where he, in especially in that offense, is needed.
And then on top of that,
there.
Exactly, when he wasn't there, the Redskins lost
gave him more
both
money
of the games to the Falcons and the Jets. I believe it was their only 2-game losing streak of the year. That's crazy. I can't believe Washington.
No. Throw them a bone, all the time, but get that out of my yard.
I mean, this is kind of bad for the Giants if he is healthy. I mean, the Giants have always, for the past decade it seems, been getting torched by tight ends, especially people like Jason Witten, people in our division.
Well, you got Eli Apple, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To be honest, when I see Apple on the field, I think he's going to be more outside, and Jenkins going to be more on the inside.
And who's your? Didn't you guys pick up a
safety,
a linebacker? Because a linebacker usually picks up the tight end if capable.
I can't.
Unless you're Luke Kuechly, then you pick up the running back and
that's more of a 2-down linebacker. There, he's not really going to be on the field during 3rd down all that often, but. Let's move on and talk about what was our last story for the Daily Breakdown? Marshawn Lynch. Now, Daily Breakdown.
Daily.
But Marshawn Lynch has he's not officially retired yet. Now, this is starting to be a little bit of a strange situation. With him not signing his retirement papers, he's still under contract. Therefore, he's still technically a player for the Seattle Seahawks. They also have not put him on the retired list. What's the technical name for that list? It's like retired reserve players or something like that?
Yes. It's
okay,
really
so with him not being on this list, he's not, what is it?
The reserved and retired list. Yeah, they've made it that simple.
So if he's not going to show up to mandatory...
yes, because right now he's still
under contract. He's going to end up getting fined. So what the rumors are being created now is that Lynch wants to be cut and wants to go sign with the Raiders, go back home where he's from, and go finish out his career with the Raiders. What do you think about these rumors, John?
Honestly, knowing that he is an Oakland boy, he deserves to be a Raider before, he hangs up them cleats for real. Because right now Oakland's on fire, and they could use his veteran leadership, especially in the running back position.
And Oakland would scoop him up in a heartbeat. They love taking players that are a little bit past their prime with a name that they think can give them a spark type deal. I mean, I'm not saying Lynch would fail if he went there by any means.
Man,
if he's healthy, that would be nice. But I mean, I could see Oakland taking him. They like to chase free agents.
You know, and I'm not only because I called out the Raiders-Panthers Super Bowl, but you know that team over there, they're just building. They're building a lot of young talent over there, and it's something to be reckoned with, especially now with Captain Noodle Arms being missing in Denver, and in current situation is an untested Paxton and butt fumble at the snap. Denver is they got wonderful wide receivers, but who's throwing to them?
Well, I guess
the same situation, but opposite scenario for the Philadelphia Eagles. You got selection in the quarterback position. They're both pretty questionable gambles on most days, but who you throwing to? So what's the true test?
Yeah, I mean, let's
to evaluate the talent there, because honestly, if you don't know who your number one wide receiver is, and that's a problem, because then that means that these defenses with mediocre cornerbacks get a little bit of an extra time to kind of play coverage, while that defensive line takes Mr. Wentz, Mr. Bradford, whoever, out for the game because he's going to be hammered.
The Eagles are in rebuild mode. Philadelphia Eagles fans don't want to admit that, but whenever you're drafting a quarterback with your first overall pick, you're in rebuild mode.
Same
he
as
has
the St. Louis
no
Rams.
one to throw to.
Nope. Correction. Los Angeles Rams.
He has no one to throw to, and a new head coach. They are in rebuilding mode. Like, you can't expect them to make a lot of damage this year. I just don't see it happening, which is fine. Teams should take a little bit time to grow. They're trying to rebuild that nucleus. They had an experiment with Chip Kelly. It went horrible, and they had to press the reset button all over again. It's going to take some time, Eagles fans. I know you don't want to hear it, but it's going to take some time.
It's going to take some time, but they're going to have to start making smart decisions with these acquisitions, because it seems like they're just throwing their money at whatever. And it's like, hey, this seems like it might work. Oh, boom. And then they, it's kind of like almost, it's
like
very
the Redskins always do.
To kind of put it in a picture of how I think that, the Philadelphia front office works is they have Charlie from It's Always Sunny making decisions. Like, kitten mints today. Boom.
Mittens, you'll be smitten.
Yes. So, I see that being the mentality over there because of how they handled these last few moves for their franchise. And especially when you're trying to rebuild after rebuilding with, somebody that you didn't believe in the foundation. And so then you went in and jackhammered that construction site and then came in with an overhaul. And it seemed like this new overhaul lacked a direction, especially with a coach that is known to follow a certain scheme that has already worked in Philadelphia. So we'll have to see, where it goes from here when the hands take, new hands take over the reins, because I don't see this man. I believe his name is Howie something. I don't see him having a job after this, but if they don't make a move next year.
Now, what we're going to get into next is this week's 4-Minute Hut.
4-Minute Hut.
The what?
4-Minute Hut.
All right. Now, if you go back a couple episodes ago, we were given our way too early division winners. So today, after the draft, we're going to go back and redo our list. We're going to keep a little bit more track of it, and we'll keep track of things as we go on, similar to a power ranking system, just how we think the teams will work it out now that the drafts happen. So, I mean, John, what what do you want to do? We'll work. You want to start with the AFC East? Who do you want to start
let's
with?
do it with the AFC East there.
All right, so in the AFC East, we're looking, of course, New England. Then you got the Jets, the Bills, and the Dolphins. And that's exactly how I think that division is going to get wrapped up. New England up top, Jets right behind them, Bills 8-8, 7-9, and Miami another dumpster fire. I mean, they did get a steal in Tunsil, but Miami will still be another dumpster fire. They need to get that defense squared away. That's an easy defense to go with.
With no quarterback,
an easy division to go
no
with.
quarterback in New York right now, that and then when Fitzpatrick does eventually play like I predicted, I don't see it actually lasting very well, and that turmoil is going to translate into a unproductive year for them. So I'm giving them the third place, Dolphins fourth, and the Bills second.
So you're giving the
Patriots
Bills second, but the Bills aren't
so I'm
really too
flipping
sure on their quarterback either, though. They keep seeming like they want to ship Tyrod Taylor right out of there. And they did draft the QB.
Tyrod was it seemed like he had patches of brightness.
Yeah, brightness. I wouldn't say greatness. Patches of brightness.
Patches of brightness that I think they could work on, and I think this might be the year that he can turn it up.
I don't know.
Especially when you have Sammy Watkins throwing, you're throwing to Sammy Watkins.
If he's on the field.
Hey, he's going to be on the field.
He had a lot of touchdowns, though. How many did he have? I forget. It was,
let's just say he was my fantasy choice, because I was like, oh, and everybody was like, yo, he's got Tyrod Taylor's, throwing to him, and he's untested. And I was like, he's Sammy Watkins, sir. He will catch everything.
All right. Well, let's move on to the NFC East. Now, with the NFC East, sorry guys, I gotta put the Eagles. The Eagles are finishing fourth. The Eagles, as I said, are in rebuild mode. Okay. Now, when you get to the 2 and 3, I got the Cowboys as of now. They seem to be the strongest team to me. I hate to say it, but from an honest point, I would have to say they're front runners for the division. Now, 2 and 3 is Giants and Washington. I'm going to give the Giants the notch up on Washington, putting the Giants coming in at second. I mean, they got Odell Beckham. Now they got Shepard to go along with him. Who knows what's going to happen with Cruz? Let's see how well this defense gets rebuilt. I think the Giants will be fighting for the division at the end of the year, and we'll have to see how the cards fall. Right now, the Cowboys are on top of them. Washington, I never have any faith in Washington. I would normally put them at fourth, but with all the changes in Philly, I got them at the bottom. Washington at 3, Giants, Cowboys at 1.
I got Cowboys 1, Giants 2, Philadelphia Eagles 3.
So from first to worst.
And fourth, the Washington Redskins. So from first to worst, indeed, because you know what? I don't know who's on their team that's worthwhile. You got Jordan Reed, and now you got Josh Norman, who you're done. Get out of here. I'm sorry, Redskins
Go back
fan.
a couple podcasts and listen to what he says about Josh Norman. The Tide, you have definitely changed opinions on.
Well, no, because he's
situation.
The Josh Norman situation. Think about what he just did to himself. He's going up against, like I said, 11 out of the 16 games is top tier wide receivers he's going up against.
Yeah, especially the first 3 with Dez, Odell, and
Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown. Sorry, yeah. Come on. So you're going to be tested all season. You don't get breaks, really. So, yeah, it's going to stink, bro, and that's going to show because they're going to get beat.
All right, well, speaking about Antonio Brown, let's move up to the Great White North. Go with the AFC North. So we're talking Pittsburgh Steelers, Browns, Bengals, and the Ravens.
Yep.
Why don't you take this division first, Sean?
Honestly, I see the Ravens reclaiming this division, and the Steelers coming in second. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to fall to third this year, even though.
Ooh, wow.
And the reason why is because I think Andy Dalton is going to be exposed and put on the chopping block, when it comes to defenses, especially in that division. It seems like Pittsburgh made a big emphasis on addressing that defense. We already know Baltimore's all about their defense and puts a lot of attention to it. And and that's 4 games against tough defenses, which if you're getting beat up like that, it's gonna show towards the end of the stretch there. So I don't think that offensive line in Cincinnati is going to be able to protect Dalton. So I'm putting them in 3rd, and then dang, who am I leaving out?
Pittsburgh?
No, I got Pittsburgh as
Browns.
2nd. The Browns, the Browns staying. So yeah,
it's easy to forget the Browns.
Yeah, yeah.
See, now I'm gonna go pretty different.
I just Charlie Browned them.
I'm gonna go pretty
That's
different.
punny.
Of course, I got the Browns at 4th. I'm sorry, they got to get their heads out of the butts. They got to become a real team before I put them anything higher than that. I'm sticking with
What
the
they
Ravens.
should do is leave the league again and give another team a chance to become a successful franchise.
Well, yeah.
like
As soon as
Ravens.
the Titans came out, they were in that Super Bowl losing by a yard. You remember that game, coming up just a yard short on the last play?
Yeah, I remember that. Wasn't that the flea flicker play too?
No, it wasn't flea flicker play. No.
Remember the
McNair hit
laterals
him.
and stuff?
Really? Was that a flea flicker play?
It was like kind of like a lateral play. I thought on a kickoff.
No. Maybe.
I'm trying to remember. There's like a lot of those Super Bowls in that time are kind of like hodgepodge as like a.
No, it was a pass from McNair.
Okay, Air McNair, man.
Yeah.
Those days were pretty dope.
But okay, so I got the Browns at 4.
Yeah.
I'm putting the Ravens right back in at number 3. I think they're a little past their heyday. Joe Flacco put together a nice season when they went on that Super Bowl run in his contract year. He is not the creme de la creme. Okay, I don't see the Ravens being some big threat. The defense isn't what it used to be. I will then go with the Bengals at 2. So I have the Bengals falling, but not as far as you do. I think they'll still be in the playoffs, probably a wild card, and the Steelers taking the division. This is going to be one of Big Ben's final prime years. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just
so
like Eli. These guys only got so much time left. I think Big Ben's going to go out there with Brown. Now, how long is Brian suspended for? Was it the whole year? Or is it 8 games?
Yeah, he's done.
It was the whole year.
Yeah, that was the whole year. So, so he's gonna have to work with, people stepping up to be that new number 2.
Well, I mean, that backfield is pretty nice for Pittsburgh.
Exactly. So, and they got my boy D'Angelo. So, I hope them.
D'Angelo played nice for them last year.
Yes, he did. He stepped up for Le'Veon, who seems to be usually more out than in.
Yeah, but I mean, between the two of them, I mean, that could be a nice little thing. Keep Big Ben a little bit more upright because he's a little injury prone as well.
All right. Yeah, but what about them NFC North?
NFC North. Well, I mean, I got to give it to Green Bay. I mean,
Green Bay,
they're one of the top teams in the NFL, in my opinion.
Okay.
They always are, and they pretty much always will be. Now, I guess, I don't know. The number 2 spot, we could go with the Vikings.
These are your picks. I don't know why you're looking at me.
I don't know. I'm a little torn about that. Why don't you talk about the North a little? I got to think about the way I have the Packers winning the North, but I don't know how the rest of it's going to shake out per se.
Well, I got the Bears being last. Unfortunately, John Fox. I don't think he's going to be able to turn that franchise around that quickly. So I'm giving them the 4th place spot. I'm a little torn.
Yeah, the Lions and Vikings.
The Lions will go into the 3rd slot.
All right, I'm going to argue with you, and I'll put the Lions at 2.
And number 2, I'm going to put the Cheeseheads. Just because Minnesota's got Laquan Treadwell, and they also have Stephon Diggs, right? On the other
Teddy
side.
Bridgewater, yep.
And Teddy Bridgewater's not a terrible quarterback.
AP.
So, and Adrian Peterson's still putting up good yards. So, yeah, how could you deny that? As a number 1 team.
I think the Lions are finally going to get it put back together a little bit. See how Golden Tate works out, and let's see if Eric Ebron the tight end out of North Carolina. Let's see if
usually
he can finally
him.
step up. Let's see if he could finally step up and live up to some of the hype.
Yeah, let's see.
There was a lot of noise coming out of him when he got taken with the ninth or the 10th overall pick.
Yeah. So who you got? So first to fourth. I'm sorry.
Green Bay, Lions, Vikings, Bears.
All right.
The Lions is more wishful thinking. I'd like to see the Lions put it together.
Wonderful.
To bring in Sam Stocks, who is a draft analyst and Tampa Bay Buccaneers writer for ProFootballSpot.com. Sam, how you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
We're doing good. We really
pretty
appreciate you coming on. I mean, what is it? It's got to be almost midnight there, right?
Yeah, about 10 to midnight now.
Well, thanks for staying up late with us, man. But, I mean, first things first. Now, we're going to have you talk a lot about undrafted free agents that are going to be coming in now. And that's really what's been going on. It's been a week from the draft, but this is the first time I've talked to you. Why don't you just tell me about what you think of the draft as a whole? How it went down, basically. What were the key points for you?
It was definitely an interesting draft. I think it was the most unpredictable draft we've had in quite a few years, definitely. The Miles Jack fall into the second round, I did not see coming. He was the top player on my board. I had him.
He was the top player on a lot of boards. Yeah.
A lot of people had him about 3 or 4, but he was number 1 on my board, just above Jalen Ramsey. And him falling to the second round was just incredible because of injury concerns and concerns about his knee, and he might have to have a micro fracture surgery in the future. So we'll see how that plays out for them. But yeah, the Jaguars got the number 1 and number 2 player on my board, so I think they had an amazing draft.
There you go.
Known to have a draft like that.
So that sounds like an A+ grade from you for the Jags.
A+ definitely.
I got a question for you because, like, especially me being a Giants fan, but what did you think about all the moves that went down right in front of the Giants? The 2 trades and then, with both the Miles Jack and Laramie Tunsil falling, that number 10 pick. What did you think about with the 2 teams trading right ahead of it and everything?
I think that it was a bit of a surprise that they went for Eli Apple, but I mean, there was other players on the board that I thought could have suited them more. Miles Jack, maybe, but I mean, he was obviously falling because of his injury concern, and also an offensive tackle like Laramie Tunsil. I mean, when you've got an aging quarterback, protecting them is one of the key things. So I'm surprised maybe that they didn't go for Tunsil, and he only went a few picks later. So I was a bit surprised by that pick, but then most of the picks in this draft surprised me, to be honest.
Yeah, see, I did like the pick. I like Eli Apple a lot. I didn't love the pick, though, but it's just what happened in front of them with the 2 trades going down for the lineman and, what's his name, Leonard Floyd, the linebacker. Like, I think both those players were their 1 and 1A, and then they just disappeared right in front of them. But I think, can you give me a breakdown of Eli Apple? I think that he's kind of like the gambling type, that he's like real aggressive, kind of like the corners the Giants already have.
Mm-hmm.
He does gamble a lot. He's given up a lot of plays in his college career, which is what maybe stopped him from, well, I would say stopped him from going higher, but he was the top cornerback, really, if you have Ramsey as a safety. And I think it was probably his biggest flaw on his tape was that he gambled and gave up plays too often, but he also made some good plays in that way because he likes to play aggressive, he likes to play in people's faces, and he likes to try and jump a route, or when he's got an instinct he tends to go with it rather than reacting to the play. He tends to try and read the play ahead and make a play on the ball. So it'd be interesting to see, maybe with a bit more technique and being a bit more experienced and a bit relaxed, he could develop into a really good lockdown number 1 corner in the league, which obviously is what they're hoping, taking a corner at number 10. He's definitely got all the physical tools. I mean, he's got good enough speed, he's got good size, and I think just maybe perfecting his technique a bit and gaining a bit of experience so he can relax and not panic and not jump in a bit too far sometimes, try and jump her out and end up giving up a touchdown.
Yeah, now I know you're right about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So why don't you tell us about where you grade their draft selections this year?
Well, I started off being really happy. I wanted Hargrave in the first. I wanted Bosa above him, but Bosa was long gone. I was a bit surprised he went at 3.
Yeah, so was I.
Well, Chargers needed help, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Especially with them Raiders coming up.
Once Bosa went, I wanted Hargraves.
Yep.
And when we were sat on the board 9, and the trades were coming in, I was thinking Tunsil's still there, Miles Jack's still there, and Vernon Hargraves is still there. And I actually said at the time, we traded back just a pick or 2, maybe, or 2 or 3, like 3 or 4 guys they like on the board. So we trade back enough to guarantee you're still getting one of those guys.
Yeah.
But not too far, which is exactly what they did, moving back just 2 spots and picking up an extra 4, which gave us that ammunition to move up later. But I was very disappointed we moved up to take a kicker in the second round, and I've seen a lot of debate about it since.
That's why I was kind of curious what your grade was going to be, because I was like, so they went.
I'd say a B.
In the second,
I'd give them a B. The first 2 picks were brilliant. We got, I think Noah Spence is, in pure talent, you'd have to put him as the most talented pass rusher in the draft.
Yeah.
But obviously his off-field concerns meant that he was in the second round.
A lot of off-field concerns this year. A lot of people.
Yeah.
Who was the deep Nkemdiche? He had a lot of off-the-field stuff. I mean, his seemed like some of the more serious stuff. But everybody, it's just. Yeah, it's not a good PR look anymore. The draft didn't go too well PR-wise.
The key thing with Noah Spence was his was quite a while ago now. It was a couple of years ago. And since arriving at Eastern Kentucky, he'd been pretty much perfect. And from what I've heard, apparently he took voluntary drugs tests weekly, and he sent the results of them to every single NFL team by himself without them asking for it. So I think he's trying everything he can to prove that he's put that all behind him. So I think they did well to pick the talent there in the second round. They got a clear first round talent, arguably a top 10, top 15 talent. But then I think when I saw them trading up in the second round, I was hoping it'd be for another defensive end, because we really need a lot to add to that pass rush, rather than maybe just one pass rusher. We could have done with 2. But then when the Aguayo pick came in, I was a bit disappointed. So we'll have to hope that he can be a standout kicker, really.
Is he better be a standout kicker.
Is he going to be the next Seabass? Because if he's the next Sebastian Janikowski, then the second round pick is worth it then.
But Janikowski was taken in the first round, and Tom Brady was taken in the 6th round of that draft.
That's
because he was just accurate when he was at Florida State, and then when he came to the pro game, he was still he was just setting records. And then I was like,
still a first round kicker, man.
Yeah,
I would be ripping my hair out. If I
didn't one of the brothers the
Grammaticas?
Yeah, they didn't want to let him go in this first round too.
I have no idea. Did Tampa take? Do you remember if Tampa took Martin Grammatica in round 1 of one of the drafts?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know what rounds he went in.
Early on, I think.
Well, especially because it's a guaranteed 3 points, and then not only that, now you got to have a good kicker, because obviously with the new rules with pushing it back, you weren't guaranteed those extra points anymore.
I'm just saying, people don't want to draft running backs in the first round. I definitely don't want to draft a kicker in the first round. But Sam, why don't you go on? Get back into what you were saying about the Bucs?
Well, I think a key thing they've done is, after the draft with free agency, they've done well to go and get some of those talented players and a mix of different players. So I made on my short list of like the top 20 or 30 or so undrafted free agents signed. I had a couple of teams had 2 players on there. I think there's 3 or 4 teams that had 2 players on there, but the Bucks had arguably 3 or 4. So I think they've had the best week since the draft. Really, they got a running back, Peyton Barber from Auburn, who was one of the most talented players, and if it wasn't for injuries and other things, people were saying he could be a 2nd or a 3rd round pick, but he decided to come out early this year after struggling with injuries and things and just get ready for the NFL, which I thought is a bit of a strange decision, but he's definitely got the talent there. So we got probably a 2nd or 3rd round talent without giving up any draft picks. We also got Devonta Lambert, who I'd seen going around the 5th or 6th round region in mock drafts at defensive end, which is one of the Bucks' biggest needs, and picking up some value there was definitely good. We needed help at safety, and we got Elijah Shoemate, which he's been very productive safety at Notre Dame. So, I mean, I doubt he'll start straight away, but he could probably make the roster. Yeah, so I think Casanova McKenzie could also make the roster at linebacker. He's probably not gonna get many snaps, but he definitely adds some depth at that position for the Bucks. And I think he was a good signing because I'd seen him going in some mock drafts in the later rounds. So that's what you really aim to do in free agent with the undrafted free agents, is pick up some players who had the talent or potential and could have got drafted but didn't for reasons, maybe off-field issues or injuries, or they were a small school guy that didn't get that much attention. But you want to try and pick up some talented players who could potentially make the roster and add depth or competition at positions.
Most definitely.
Now, okay, so what is the about how many players, undrafted free agents, actually make it to the league on a roster averagely? Do you know about?
Well, it's quite a small percentage. I'd say probably somewhere between 20 and 50, more like around the 30, 35 range. So 1 or 2 maybe on each team. Depending on the team, there could be 3 or 4. Depends really on the strength of the team. If the team's got a good roster, they might not have any undrafted free agents make the team. So teams with good depth, like the Cardinals or the Bengals, we have pretty good all-round depth, maybe won't have any undrafted free agents make the roster. But I think some of the weaker teams like the Browns could have 2 or 3 players that make their roster. And they've added quite a lot of people at this stage. So, I mean, teams like that tend to bring in like 15 or 20 for undrafted free agents and then let them compete for positions on the roster.
Now, are some positions like more likely to find their way into the league based on an undrafted free agent? Like most fullbacks, nobody's drafting fullbacks. If there's a fullback on the roster, he's more likely to have been a undrafted free agent. Am I right in saying that?
Well, yeah, the Buffalo Bills got Glenn Gronkowski after the draft as an undrafted free agent signing, who I've seen he was going around 5th, 6th round in some of the mock drafts, and obviously his brother having success in the NFL, huge success in the NFL, is going to help him out.
Yeah.
And I think he's almost certain to make that roster. He's a good player, and he can do quite a bit of running, catching, and also pass blocking. So he's quite a versatile fullback who could definitely earn a roster spot there.
Now, how do you feel about what's his name, Tyron Beckham, Odell Beckham's cousin?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite often that you see players, it runs in the family, so like cousins or brothers and stuff, but it's hard to tell because you have some who obviously they have great success, like the Manning brothers. They both had success, both won multiple Super Bowls, but then
well,
yeah,
not so much with the Aints, but he made a legacy for himself, though.
But I mean, it doesn't always work out. He's obviously going to get the attention for the bloodlines that he has, but I mean, he's not the same talent at all. I mean, maybe he could develop. I mean, probably working out with Odell and training with Odell in the off season would be helpful for him.
So if you had
for sure.
to give the Buccaneers a grade for their acquisitions in the draft, and then for their after post draft selections with the unrestricted free agents.
Yeah,
Undrafted
I'd say B. I'd say a B for the draft, and then an A for the undrafted free agents.
Okay, now why don't you tell us as a whole what some of your favorite undrafted free agents are and who you think have the best chance of making a roster?
Well, there's Glenn Gronkowski for the Buffalo Bills. I think probably has the best chance. He's almost certain to make the roster there. Jake Coker, the Alabama quarterback, who was one of the highest, well, arguably the highest player coming out of high school, recruited to almost every single college. Played sat behind Jameis Winston at Florida State and then transferred to Alabama, where he won a national title. So he's not been great throughout his college career, and he hasn't lived up to the hype that he had. But in Arizona, they need a young quarterback on that roster, really. So I think he's got a good chance of making that roster as the third quarterback. There's a couple of other players. Eric Stryker, the inside linebacker, could make a roster. Jeremy Cash, who's currently at the Panthers, could make a roster.
Yeah, he's the Dookie that I was complaining about because I'm a UNC fan.
Yeah, John's a UNC fan, so he doesn't like the kid because he's from Duke.
There's a couple of wide receivers. Braden Addison on the Broncos, Jay Lee with the Lions, Geronimo Allison with the Green Bay Packers could all make the roster, I think. As kind of a fifth or sixth wide receiver who come in on some snaps on those 5 wide sets and stuff on third down. I think Peyton Barber could make the Bucs roster as a third running back. There's DJ Petway, the Alabama defensive lineman, could make a roster. I mean, quite often these guys, they might sign with a team and then not make the roster with that team and get offered a practice squad place. But then another team might like them more and have a need at that position where they're not so strong, and they can then sign them.
Yeah, because they have to clear waivers, basically.
Yeah. So, yeah, the teams they're on at the moment, I mean, doesn't really mean much. There's just as big a chance that they end up on a different roster as there is that they make that roster, to be honest.
So
Yes. Okay, now what do you think? See, you being a Patriots fan, you are a Patriots fan, right?
A Bucks fan.
Oh, you're a Bucks fan? Why was I thinking that he was a Patriots fan?
I don't know.
Well, what did you think about the Patriots and not having the first round pick? But how do you think they did overall with the rest of the draft?
It's always hard to tell with the Patriots because, I mean, they seem to do a good job of picking up the players that aren't so well talked about or that kind of slip under the radar. But whenever they pick them, you think like
they're crazy.
That was a good pick. Or yeah, sometimes quite often you think like, who is this player? But then sometimes you think like that's a good pick. Why didn't they go earlier? So, I mean, it's always hard to know with the Patriots, but I think Bill Belichick definitely looks for certain things in his players, and he's got a certain type that he tends to go for.
Yeah. I have a quick question then for you, Sam. As the resident Panthers fan over here, I have to ask you, my honest opinion of their draft versus their after draft pickups were, I would say a B- with the draft because, everybody's disagreeing and going with these like C's and D's with that because but I'd say I disagree because we got depth now in that position. Because we still have, a few veterans there to teach these guys, and as long as you got depth, that next man up mentality is going to do work. I believe it.
Absolutely, just having a farm system. This is really
so. But the farm system. It worked last year, and it's gonna have to work again because they're already instilling that mentality with the leaders being Greg Olsen and Cam Newton. So with that, the B-, and then the after, I have to give them an A because they picked up a few good gems, and you mentioned Cash. So as the Bucks, made some moves. Do you agree with my grade, or where do you find your division foes?
I think they're at a bit of a luxury that they can afford to maybe not reach on a player because they have a glaring need at a position, because there really isn't any position that they have that kind of need at the moment. So they've got that luxury to be able to just take a good player or who they might think is the best player available, and if he's not going to be a starter, whether it's in the second round or the fifth round, they don't have to worry about that player being a starter, because they've already got a solid roster in place, and that backup and security is going to be just as valuable as trying to reach for a player to try and fill a certain position or a certain need. So I think they did a good job overall, because they didn't get dragged into trying to reach for certain needs, mainly because they didn't really have any real needs. But that allowed them to kind of just sit back and let the draft come to them and see who they believed was the best player or the best fit for that roster at that pick, rather than trying to trade up to get a certain guy or chasing after defensive ends when the next best defensive end was 20th on their draft board at the time.
Yeah, I believe, I'm starting to believe in Dave Gettleman. I was a little mad that he got rid of Steve Smith, but, honestly.
What was that now? 3 years ago they got rid of Smith now?
All right, I'm still salty, all right?
Oh, no, I'm just curious. It has been quite some time, yeah.
It's been some time, but I'm still salty because, that bravado that he brought was that Panthers, swag that we had. Even though, that swag came to become the bane of our existence in a sense, because you have mothers writing hateful letters to the league.
All that stuff is ridiculous.
And things of that nature. But
complaining about Cam Newton's dancing.
Yeah,
Does anyone remember Deion Sanders?
they should. I heard they were gonna start doing advertising on the jerseys, and I believe that the first one that the Carolina Panthers should go for then should be Target, because they already have the Target on them.
Oh, please. How long ago you been saving that one up for, John?
2 minutes.
Okay. Now, Sam, I want to get back into last Thursday night with you. How do you feel about the top three picks? Because there was a lot of, first of all, the two quarterbacks being there, and then Bosa going number 3 overall.
Yeah, especially a D2 guy going number 2.
Yeah, how do you feel about the top three picks?
I think the top one was just as much a business move as it was about taking the best player,
selling jerseys.
Yeah, selling jerseys, generating interest in a new city, getting the quarterback that played for Cal, grew up in Cal, and is the big name coming out in the draft. And I mean, NFL media certainly helped with building up the hype on the build-up to the draft about Goff or Wentz and who's going to go where and how good are these two quarterbacks. And I was a bit surprised with the Eagles. I thought they would be in the market for a quarterback, but then re-signing Bradford and the kind of money they're going to be giving Sam Bradford, and then chasing after quarterbacks in free agency, you thought they'd kind of filled that position. And whether you think they were good enough at that position and set there or not, they'd kind of already spent a lot of money there. So to then go and trade all that draft capital, like they traded away 2 players to move from 13 to 8, and then a lot of picks, including I think 2 first rounders, to get up to number 2 overall. So it was a lot to give up in the end, and I thought they've invested a hell of a lot in that position now, so they kind of have to hope that, I guess, Wentz works out. And it seems like it's all turned into a bit of a mess with Bradford now basically going on a sulk and saying he doesn't want to play, he wants to be traded. Apparently there was reports on NFL media that he wasn't answering his phone from the GM.
I heard that, yeah.
So Sam, where do you see sulking Sam landing as in a realistic, the most realistic scenario possible? Because I don't see too many teams reaching out for him, but maybe there is. Who knows?
I think he's got a very big wage that no team's going to want to pick up, that cap hit, and the Eagles don't want to trade him because they want to give Wentz the time to be a backup and sit behind him that year or two that they think he might need, and that should help his development. So therefore they don't want to get rid of him, so they're probably going to ask for a first round pick, which no team's going to want to give up. And then even if a team is willing to make the trade and they can agree on a second or a first round pick or maybe some players in return, then they've got to find a way to take that cap hit for a quarterback that really hasn't shown anything in the last few years.
I mean, where would you even see him ending up, though? What, maybe the Jets? Where would you, if he was to leave, where do you think he would find a home at?
I don't think the Jets would. They don't have a lot of cap space at the moment, and they still got Wilson to sort out. So I mean, I can't see them trading for him.
I see him going 49ers. Going back to the man that gambled on him in the first place.
Chip Kelly.
I think it'd be staying in Philadelphia, to be honest, but 49ers probably one of the most likely places.
If he was to leave.
Maybe the Broncos. I'd put Broncos as the most likely place.
Because Mark Sanchez and then the new boy on the block.
They can take last year's crap Eagles quarterbacks, both of them.
Yeah, they can try both. Yeah. And then just throw the rookie right in.
Now, how do you feel about Bosa going all the way up at number 3?
Well, it's strange with Bosa. If you were talking about this in January, people would be saying that Bosa was good value at number 3 because he was, for a while, the projected number 1 pick, and then Ramsey and Jack and Tunsil all came into the conversation, and people were saying that Bosa didn't have the physical tools and he wasn't physically dominant, and that he had a lack of production with his sacks going down a lot in the last year. So he kind of, throughout the process, it was slow and gradual over the months, but he slid from the top 2 or 3 picks to all the way down to potentially being out of the top 10 in the mock draft just a few days before. So I think he's good value there. I thought they might go for someone like Buckner because Buckner was more versatile across that defensive line. He's a bit more scheme versatile in 3-4 or 4-3 defense as well. He can play. He could probably play a 3-4 defensive end quite well. I think that would suit him. Whereas Bosa, I don't think he really has the size for that at the moment. Bosa's more locked into a 4-3 scheme, I think, unless they want to try and stand him up, because I don't think he's going to be able to play 3-4 defensive end. So I thought they were going Buckner, so that's a bit of a surprise. But I think Bosa's his technique is the best I've seen in a long time. He's got polished technique already, and he wins with his hands and wins with his technique, which is always a good thing in a defensive end.
Well, when he's going up against some Raiders 2 games a season, and he's got those wide receivers in Denver, and he's gonna have his hands full, especially come this season coming up, because at least 2 teams are gonna give him a little run for his money.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think San Diego definitely have a plan for him because they've had plenty of time to sit there and think about the pick, and
especially after the 2 trades, they probably took a lot of trade offers for that number 3 themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
I think they may have kept it very quiet, but I think they knew if they were staying at 3 who they were taking all along. So I think they've known for a couple of weeks before the draft that they were going to be taking Bosa there if they picked at number 3. And they've got a plan in place for him, so it'd be interesting to see what it is, whether they want to play him as a pass rusher or whether they want to try and stand him up and use him a bit more versatile.
Okay, other than Miles Jack falling to second,
second round.
What do you think was your biggest surprise in the draft?
Other than Tunsil and Jack, what was the biggest surprise?
Yeah, because everybody jumped on those 2, and it seems like there's got to be something else that's
it was the most drama,
most dramatic.
Probably the Eli Apple pick, I would think. Then after that,
well, say Carl Joseph went quite high, coming off of a serious injury as well, and he was mocked mainly in the early second round. Maybe I saw him late first round to like the Broncos or the Panthers a couple of times, and then all of a sudden he goes to the Oakland Raiders in the first round.
Yeah,
which
but they
was
needed
a lot.
they needed that help over there, especially with the retirement of Charles Woodson, and they just needed help because like I just got done saying, Denver's got good wide receivers, and but obviously the San Diego Chargers have some decent wide receivers as well. That's what they're running with, but also they got that rookie. Second the second year player. Dang, now I just lost his name. The running back. He's Malcolm, right? Something.
Malcolm Butler.
No, dang, I just lost his name. I lost his name, but the running back out of in San Diego, he can.
Melvin Gordon.
There we go, Melvin. Damn, yeah, I'm like, I'm so.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
I'd say Andrew Billings was definitely a surprise from Baylor.
Yeah.
I've seen him going like late first, early second, a lot of mock drafts, and he was still there on the third day. On the third day, I think it was 49 on one of the NFL draft analysts' big board, and then he sat there on the third day, and it's got their best players available. It's got him at 49, and then the next best player was like number 98 or something. So he went way later than expected, I think. But I think that's partly because they see him as not being scheme versatile and being a bit of a one-trick pony who can just kind of plug gaps in the middle in a 3-4.
Now, see, that sounds like a man that's done his homework. All right? See, that's a good answer.
Now, Sam, before we let you get out of here, and thanks so much for hanging out with us for so long, all the way out there in the UK. So where do you live exactly? Not exactly. You know what I mean.
In Southampton. It's on the south coast of the UK.
How's the weather treating you out there these weeks?
It's been really sunny the last few days.
Oh, it's been terrible over here.
Yeah, we had a nice stretch in April, and then May came, and it was like dun dun dun.
Gloom and
stretches
doom.
normally last a few hours.
Well,
a few days, weeks.
Why don't you tell everyone where you could be reached at and how they could see some of your work, what websites you're affiliated with,
plug
and
it
everything?
up.
It's at Sam Stocks PFS for Pro Football Spot is my Twitter, and at Pro Football Spot you'll be able to see all my draft articles and Bucks articles and anything else that I post.
All right, Sam, thanks so much for coming on. We'll stay in touch, man. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks again,
Right,
man.
thank you.
All right, how's everybody doing out there today? Thanks for tuning into this special edition Voice of Bedlam podcast. If you want to take that next jump with your business or company, you need to come over and advertise on the Voice of Bedlam podcast. Get your ad heard by thousands on a reoccurring basis. Just click buy now and send us your info. Thanks a lot, guys.